All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of Soko Chain, episode number 6. We are so excited to be having this episode today. Last week, we had an amazing episode with Block Cop Sako, who are integrating blockchain technology into the cooperative sector. If you haven't watched that episode, please go back, listen to it. It's very insightful. Today, we're going to have another amazing conversation with one of the Web3 ecosystem movers and shakers because they've mentored and impacted so many builders within the blockchain and crypto ecosystem here in Kenya and Africa at large. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guest today, Ochi from Web3 Clubs. Hi, Ochi. How are you?
Good. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us on this episode today. So excited to be having this sit down with you. You came highly recommended with one of the industry players when I started Soko Chain, and also having invited a couple of guests here who are builders within the ecosystem, and they mentioned about Web3 clubs, how that's where they started, and having an interaction with you and your co-founder, and just pinpointing some of their strongholds and pushing them in that direction of where they are right now. So it's such an amazing opportunity to be having you here today to just to hear your journey, how you started into the blockchain space, how you're progressing, how Web3 clubs came about, and yeah, so much more as we unpack in the conversation. So without further ado, if you can just take us through your journey, how did you start in blockchain? Is it something that you stumbled upon, or is it something you actively researched before diving into it? Please tell us your story.
All right. So I think so. I'll start with my journey in tech, which started
Yeah.
through art. I used to do a lot of artwork, like making clothes and drawing and painting. Then I started scanning that artwork to digitize it so that I can manipulate it through Photoshop. Then I then transitioned into web design, and then from web design, I basically did a, a bachelor's degree in business and technology.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so in uni, I used to attend um, a lot of events, like tech events, business events, and all that. And so the one that stood out was Nairobi Tech Week in Strathmore, which is where I was schooling. And
Yeah.
then so all these people came, just to host this tech event. And then there's this one guy. He on his session he was talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. It just sounded like something very strange that I've never heard of. Um, so yeah, so after his session, I approached him and asked him, so like what's up with this whole Bitcoin stuff? And so he starts explaining about, you know, um, the open ledger and how Bitcoin is mined, or how Bitcoin is an incentive for
Yeah.
this thing called the blockchain. And of course, I only had a few minutes with him, and he couldn't really explain everything. As you know, explaining blockchain is just a whole other thing. The,
Yeah.
the, the only thing he told me was like, listen, if there's one thing I can tell you, is just look into this thing.
Mm.
And it's just the way he spoke about it. Like his conviction was so strong.
Yeah.
And I literally just went on his faith. I mean, I just had faith in what he was saying,
Yeah.
just based on how passionate he was, and so that's what basically got me interested in this stuff. Um, I called my friend Alex Matu, who's a co-founder of Web3 Clubs. And I told him, there's this thing called Bitcoin. I've been told to look at it. It's very, very, it's the future. So I called him up. We called some friends. We had a meeting. um, like in our neighborhood, and, just discussing like what is Bitcoin, what is blockchain. Yeah, and that's just how we got started into this whole Web3 journey, I guess. Yeah.
That's quite interesting, and I like what you've said about the aspect of faith and just trusting what somebody else is telling you about um, what Bitcoin is, because I feel like that's how most people have gotten into the Bitcoin and blockchain space. Because when you hear about Bitcoin at first, it usually sounds crazy, to be honest. It sounds, what do you mean this whole aspect of decentralized money? And we like how, and if you hear from a libertarian, it's even worse, because their way of understanding it and their way of dissecting it is very different from what we're used to in terms of centralization and the systems that we're used to. But now that trust aspect is what has gotten most of us hooked, because they're just like, okay, me, I believe in you and I want to understand this more, so I'm gonna stick around to learn more. So that's very interesting. So how, at what point did now Web3 clubs come into play? And as you explained to us what time, at what time Web3 clubs came into play, you can just tell us what Web3 club is and what it does.
Yeah. It's quite a long story, as you can imagine. But just one thing. This
Yeah,
guy, George, who told me about Bitcoin, I've never met him again. Actually, when I spoke to him, he
yeah,
was basically traveling to America like the next week. Um,
that's
and
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So me and my co-founder then, well, at that time he was not a co-founder; he was just my buddy. You know,
yeah,
uh, we started looking into crypto and buying tokens, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and
yeah,
trading and all that. Then we found ourselves now around 2020.
yeah,
Some guy came to Kenya with a lot of Ethereum, and he was looking to host a trading desk. And at that time, me and Matu had been trading for almost like 2 years. Um,
mm-hmm.
so yeah, so he basically gave us a job to trade for him. All this Ethereum that he had made from DeFi Summer.
Yeah,
Um, and then it was nice, it was amazing, but then I think we kind of got, we felt like it was time to move on to other things. And me and Matu do have developer backgrounds. We're builders, we're creatives also.
yeah,
So yeah, and we had some other co-founders as well at the time. No, I mean friends. Let me say friends. So ourselves and the other friends came together, and we were thinking about like how can we build stuff, because even before we started all this crypto stuff, we were still building. I was doing websites, Matt was doing software. Um, so yeah, so we wanted to build on blockchain, but
yeah,
there wasn't enough local capacity for that. Like we didn't know where to start, and asking around for builders, there weren't too many guys. Like the ecosystem really was just starting, or was even pre-starting. Like, it was really just green. So yeah, so led by this vision, and also kind of not being too inspired by trading,
yeah,
uh, ourselves and some other friends just came together and strategized on how would we start this. So what we did is we put together a proposal,
mm-hmm.
um, to their protocol. At the time, they were kind of active in the region. So they gave us some funding, and then so we had a strategy where basically let's just look for developers in the country, you know,
Yeah,
literally just start looking for people. And so we went so the strategy was let's go to different unis and colleges around the country,
Yeah.
go through the IT departments and just identify like who are the best programmers, you know, that we can
Yeah.
find. And so
Mm-hmm.
we went to Kisumu, we went to Mombasa, and here in Nairobi, going to different universities and polytechnics and colleges, and just talking to people and asking, okay, so who here is really, really good at coding, who is passionate about coding? And
Yeah.
then we found a number of guys, and this was in 2022, actually,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like January 2022. So, so we found these guys and we told them, there's this thing called blockchain. It's amazing. You can build on it. It's like the internet, but it's more secure. It's transparent. It has all these characteristics that make it amazing. Would you be interested? And they said yes. And so we basically brought all of them to Nairobi, uh, put them up in Airbnbs here in Kilimani. We booked a co-working space and did some trainings. We got a trainer, Ken. That was our first trainer. And yeah, so
Yeah.
we just did our first boot camp and training and a 3 month cohort. And that was basically how we started. Yeah. So,
It,
yeah.
yeah. That's quite interesting. And be, to just get into what you've said and to get your inspiration, aside from, you said you are building, you're a builder and a creative in nature. That's who you were before Web3 started.
Yeah.
Is there something that you'll say, aside from interacting with George and the other people within the ecosystem, is there something that really inspired you and your co-founder to specifically focus on builders instead of venturing out into any other area within the blockchain space? What really inspired you to pick that one area of um, mentoring and, you know, uh, inspiring builders within the space?
Yeah. So first of all, uh, building stuff is just it's just a thing. Um, as a creator or as a creative, there's a lot of fulfillment that comes from just taking something from your mind and having it exist now in real life.
Yeah.
I've also been a passionate entrepreneur, or let me say, for the longest time I was a freelancer. So I love building stuff and earning from it.
Yeah.
It's just the whole lifestyle around, um, you know, being an innovator, entrepreneur. The other thing that came with, and I'd say one of the biggest drivers for me was I've always been passionate about like freedom and sovereignty, and even before we looked at things as, say, products and stuff.
Yeah.
Me and my co-founder used to take long walks and just think about like what would the ideal future look like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
future like with a great economy, great governance. Even at the time, we won't call it governance. It was just
Yeah.
like how like how would the future look like if things were really working, and what would some of those things be,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, we discussed like imagine if guys could vote, transparently, and imagine if people could bring money together as a community, and then people could vote on decisions on how
Yeah.
like those funds could be used, and like almost like a utopia, almost, right?
Yeah.
And and I feel like Web3 or blockchain preaches that. So it was almost like, oh, all these things we've been thinking about, the infrastructure is here now, and
Yeah.
so now we can do everything we like, which is build products, right?
Yeah.
The impact that comes from just training people is, the fulfillment is, it's not even possible to explain in words.
Yeah.
We're also in a space that we can build things that can actually like change lives, um, you know, within our community, in the country, and across the world. So the alignment was just, it was. yeah, as the element was just crazy. Uh, it was a no-brainer for us, really. Yeah.
That's really great. You've mentioned something about impact, and I just want you to tell us what impact have you seen after starting with Three Club and interacting with different people. You've mentioned you went to different um, towns within the country to just identify the best builders in different units. So far, since Web3 Club started, what would you say is the greatest impact that you guys have experienced that is a constant motivator for you guys to keep on doing what you're doing because you're seeing results?
Yeah, so the impact is on many, many levels. Probably not possible to mention everything.
Yeah,
Um, so, so first of all, I'd say community. Um, the structure and the value that community brings is something that we had not really, uh, we could not have imagined or even foreseen. In fact, when we
yeah,
started, we were not even thinking like we're gonna build a community. No, it was just like, let's get these people, bring them together, and then
yeah,
you know, get some trainers and see, know, build local capacity for developers. Basically, like that was it. But then, through putting guys in a group, having constant engagement, we basically found ourselves have built a community, you know,
yeah,
and then people are trying to join the next cohort. So community has now become one of the biggest impact, uh, I'd say, value propositions of Web3 clubs is that
yeah,
people come, they find, they make friends there, they learn through sharing information.
yeah,
So people now have a whole like ecosystem around them that was probably not there. And then the beauty is that there's alignment, right? So you came here to learn tech, and now you have friends who are interested in tech, or in Web3. So
yeah,
it's like a positive movement, right? It's like it's like a church almost that is focused on, you know, other things, right? So you've got great friends. All of you are motivated to like learn amazing things that can potentially change the world or change your own futures. So I'd say
yeah,
community is number one. I'd say the other impact is, just knowledge sharing. Just becoming brilliant at what you do.
yeah,
Um, and community, I believe, is the most efficient way of doing that, because you've got all these points that hit you. Like you've got links, people are sending links.
yeah,
There's conversations being had. There's resources being shared about organizations and hackathons and and funding and all that. So there's just so many points of data that are coming at you so organically, and
yeah,
so the growth that comes out of that is I think the most optimum way of growing. The other impact I'd say is economic impact. So people are now, getting jobs, getting hired. People are forming startups. People are winning bounties in hackathons. People are getting grants through the projects that they're building. So yeah, so you just have all this growth happening in this community. I'd say, for example, I think one of the biggest impacts right now is people uh, are now going to, are flying to international Web3 events.
yeah,
So, like when it started, people are not catching flights. Like right
mm,
now, everyone is flying everywhere.
yeah,
Uh, People are going South America recently with Dev
yeah.
Connect,
Dev Connect. Yeah,
Token 2049. Some of our members are now training for different ecosystems, so they're getting hired to train for
yeah,
Polkadot. So these guys are now trainers, they're builders, they're
yeah,
founders. Um, yeah, so it's so much is happening. Um, it's like we're reaching this point where things are just almost exponential.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd say, maybe this is gonna be, I don't know if it's still in this point, but so we started off training guys to build, right? And then a lot
Yeah.
of these guys now are looking to do startups. So now we've got all these super early stage startups, right?
Yeah.
And all these guys are trying to get funding, they're trying to get traction in their products. So that happened, I'd say, for us, really, I'd say between last year and this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So early stage startups, everyone has got products, got so many products in the lab. Some guys even have like 3 products, which is
Interesting. Yeah.
a bit ridiculous. But yeah, so we've got all these products. All these guys are trying to get funded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then uh, and basically the VCs and the ecosystem players are saying, okay, where's your traction? You don't have traction, right?
Yeah.
So raising these funds is a struggle. Um, but what's happening now? Some products are popping up
Mm.
and have traction. Like you're seeing some products now has maybe 10,000 users or maybe 50,000 users, 10,000 active users. And so it's almost like, so you had this not many builders in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now we have like plenty of builders. Then these guys are now becoming, startup founders or founders. But then they're on this plateau where now they have got like zero traction, right?
Mm.
Then now
Mm.
that graph is now slowly going up, and I've
Yeah.
got these guys who are now they're getting numbers. So I'm seeing like in the next year, a good number of these products then will have traction,
Yeah.
right? They'll have good numbers. Right now, Web3 Clubs is actively involved in founder, building a founder capacity, right? So founder support. So we're doing calls around helping guys to go to market, ideation, building, basically the
Yeah.
whole pipeline of of being a tech founder, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're not just focusing on building, but you're focusing on incubating. Like once the builders have built whatever project they built, you incubate it and you give them ideas on how to go to the market. You give them access to VCs who you give them access to grant opportunities as well. And that is really impressive because I want to circle back to what you just said in terms of impact and the growth that we are seeing in the industry and seeing that how people are growing to a point of getting international recognition in terms of how builders are building in the space. Local projects are being amplified to a point of being invited to international platforms, such as Dev Connect, as we've said, Token 49. People are going to international platforms to just talk about projects that are being built here in Kenya, which is really quite impressive because I find most of those projects are rooted in Web3 clubs. Because I've had the privilege of sitting with two of my guests here, and their journey started at Web3 clubs. One of them is Bratipa Kioko. She mentioned that she was among the first ladies to uh, learn coding, Web3 coding in at Web3 Club. So that is really quite impressive. Seeing her journey, how she has evolved into the space to a point where right now she's working with um, the biggest one of the big protocols within the space, that is Lisk. We also had a conversation with Ronald Nzioki, who's working for Celo as well. And these are people who have in one way or another either directly or indirectly interacted with you guys, and it's through what you just said, community coming together and interacting with people and realizing, oh, we're here, we are like-minded people, we want to see the same things, we want to see this evolution of the technology, and we want to see different infrastructures come up in this in our space. We want to see change, and the change is going to be brought about by this technology. And being in a space, I've been to Web3 clubs, to your offices, and I can attest to the community there and the vibrancy of the community. And it's a space you get into and you wonder, Kwani, what do I know? Because people there are so knowledgeable. Oh my God, it's so overwhelming being in your space in a very good way. It challenges you to go and study more, research more, have an understanding of what is happening within the blockchain ecosystem, because a lot is happening, and we just need to ground ourselves with communities and circles of friends who are impacting us, and we can be able to grow together. That was quite a good point. I want you to give us your perspective of how the ecosystem has changed in Africa and in Kenya in terms of when you started Web3 clubs, when you guys were going to look for builders at that time. Now we've gotten to a point where it's builders who are looking for you because they've heard of what you guys are doing. Now you're no longer in the space where you need to move from your spaces to go to this university. Basically, you've gotten to a point where your reputation supersedes you guys, and now you're having people come to your space wanting to interact with you guys, wanting to interact with some of the people who are within the club, who are mentoring people in different areas of blockchain. What evolution have you seen from when you started to where we are right now in terms of adoption of blockchain?
Yeah, I think you put it well. Like, I think the journey of any founder or anyone who starts anything, like, when you try to bring an idea, is that you first start like telling guys, come, 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 and then it reaches a point where, like, okay, people, the idea is now being well received, and then it reaches a point now where, like, you have an influx, like, people are basically seeing the value, and they're now embracing it more. So I feel like that curve or that graph cuts across everything. So, for
Yeah,
example, in the beginning, you know, but I, we would struggle maybe to kind of explain what we're doing and why we're relevant and all that.
yeah,
Now, the work that we've done as a community can be seen and speaks for itself. So the
yeah,
conversations are a bit easier,
yeah,
whether it's trying to partner with organizations,
yeah,
to see like potential collaborations, whether it's to do cohorts or whether we're trying to um, get support for our founders and all that. I, I feel like the conversations are a bit easier. It's still, I feel like um, the value still is yet to be fully understood. I feel like a lot of the ecosystem stakeholders, they see there's something here, but I feel like they, they still haven't fully grasped what is here and the potential that is here. But to answer your question, I'd say the value is more clear now. The conversations are easier and they're only going to get better.
yeah.
Yeah, I think with time there will be, you know, almost perfect alignment. I believe Africa is the place to be right now. There's a
100%.
lot of energy. I've also traveled. I've moved around a bit, and I can I can guarantee you, like, I always, after 2 3 weeks, I always want to come back home. Like, you know, like Kenya is, Nairobi is wild. Things are
Yeah.
not perfect. People are not, like, how home is. It's not like, Europe or whatever. You know.
East or West home is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but I always want to come back because I've got so many friends here. The vibes are different. The food, everything.
We are in an industry that is constantly changing. Like there are trends coming up every other time. There
Mhm.
are blockchains which are starting every other time. Then us being here in Africa, you find what is being developed in the West. They really want to penetrate the African market. So with all that changes, with new things coming up every other time, like we're seeing events and different events are introducing different products from different areas across the globe. What really keeps you as Ochieng inspired in within all this chaos of what blockchain is? What keeps you inspired?
Um, Creator, I love building stuff, and you know, I've had this from very many people, like people who have come to Africa and have experienced, you know,
Yeah,
uh, here home. Um, so Africa is like a canvas, that is fresh for painting or for
yeah,
creating something on top of. So a lot of the, so for example, like the so-called developed countries have got these structures that have been there for a long time, So for example, financial systems, social systems, and all that, they work and they're cast in stone, and innovating around that is very difficult. Even in situations where it might be clear that things could be better, it's just very difficult. I always say, like like how Africa, we basically skipped the whole landline thing and went to mobile. You know, for example, here in Kenya, we basically leapfrogged over traditional banking with cards and all that, and just leaped into mobile money. So now I feel like the next leap is we're going to leapfrog of governance, like democratic governance, as we know it, and leapfrog into community-led governance, for example. So what inspires me is just how much can be done, and how much better we have the opportunity to do that. So what was the disadvantage?
yeah,
Like poor government, poor governance, just maybe lack of access to resources and all that. All those negative things are actually an opportunity for us to almost, I'd say, like set the standard on how things could and should or will be. And so being in that space as an ecosystem builder for me is uh, is quite the opportunity.
yeah. I just want to ask, and you had mentioned a little bit about uh, the the challenge that you guys have experienced over time. And I just want you to tell us from your perspective and from a mentor's point of view, what are some of the core challenges that you've seen that are a hindrance of these young builders who are coming into the space wanting to build, wanting to evolve, wanting to be the next founder who is building like a viable project? What would you say is the challenge and a hindrance that is blinding them from what um, they can be able to, or rather from them unlocking their full potential? What would you say is hindering them from that?
I think the hindrances vary from like different levels.
Yeah,
So there's the obvious ones like imposter syndrome and stuff. You know,
yeah,
most of our community members are very young people. Most of your life really you've just been under your parents, right? So
yeah,
you're used to just being taken care of, and then you're now basically trying to find yourself, uh, to discover what your potential is.
yeah,
And some people struggle with, like believing in themselves, like I am this person who can achieve this.
mm,
So a lot of the work we do, and it's not really like we have programs where we tell you are the one. No, it's more like organic and conversations.
yeah,
I'm telling people like, look, there's nothing that you can't achieve. Yeah,
That's
like
true.
you put your mind to it. Um, so even when you speak, how you speak, you need to
Yeah.
speak almost like you're doing it already, or like it exists already.
Yeah.
So say the mindset, I think, is something that uh, we try to work on here at Web3 Clubs.
Yeah.
Also, our community helps a lot because when you come into this space, with these ideas and you're not so sure, like, oh, will this work, will this not work? And
Yeah.
then the guy sitting next to you just got a grant for 5K for something that you saw them starting to build maybe a few months ago. You're like, oh
Yeah.
man, this thing is happening. So, like you come here and then in a very short period, you start seeing validation through fellow
Mhm.
members and friends.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is a reality. Like, it's almost like there's this river that's passing and people are jumping in and they're ending up there, and soon it will be you. You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's something here, and all you have to do is to just stick around long enough,
Yeah.
put in the work, and you just might be the next one to catch a grant, or or to have your product get some users, or you know. So I'd say mindset. The other hindrance is obvious, is just resources. Um, we don't have enough resources to fully implement our vision, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is normal. Also, Web3 Clubs is a not-for-profit organization.
Mm.
So we are working around our sustainability model. Right now, we're heavily reliant on grants, but we know that's not too sustainable.
Yeah.
Although we have the good fortune of being trusted by ecosystem stakeholders and getting support
Yeah.
where we can. But through building products and other initiatives, we are working towards having a more sustainable model. And this challenge of resources is not only with us as
Yeah.
an organization, but even our members themselves, especially I would say. For example, devices. So maybe your laptop is slow or it's broken or has an issue. Not everyone has access to data, or like the amount of data that they'd like, to basically like access all the information
Mm.
they would like. So yeah, access to resources is a hindrance in the community, but it's only getting better. We now have our own lab here
Yeah.
in Nairobi, where I'm holding this interview from. This lab was community funded. Basically, like members put money together, and now
Yeah.
it's in operation. So yeah, I'd say things are getting better. I think those are the main hindrances I can think of right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say the other hindrance we have is, and I think I mentioned this before, is
Yeah.
alignment with ecosystem stakeholders, is getting guys to really see the vision of what we're doing here as Web3 clubs and
Yeah.
as Web3 Africa, really.
Yeah.
I think that, as I said, is improving and it can only get better.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the talk of investing in Africa and Africa being the next big thing. I,
Yeah.
I fully believe in that narrative. Um, but yeah, I think all that, those narratives are being shaped up and will only get better with time. So yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask, what are some of those opportunities or narratives, as you said, that uh, international investors are seeing for them to want to come and invest here in Africa? What are some of those things that maybe they're seeing we're not seeing, or we are even seeing and we are grabbing the opportunity? Because then coming to invest here in Africa is an opportunity for young people to um, make a living, to showcase their products, to become builders of these projects that they're coming to get grants because they're seeing their projects are viable. So, what are some of those opportunities or narratives that are making it favorable for international investors to want to come and invest in Africa.
Right. So a lot of the challenges that Africans experience economically is
Mhm.
exactly what pushed them towards Web3 and blockchain, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
inefficiencies in cross-border money transfer, like high fees,
yeah,
um, you know, it's these problems exactly that make this region
mm,
ideal for for this kind of trade or this kind of
yeah,
that basically racks up these volumes. So, for example, Africa is doing great. Nigeria, Kenya, like we're doing great in terms of P2P volumes or just remittance volumes.
yeah,
Money being moved around, and so a lot of people in the continent and outside are seeing an opportunity, right,
yeah.
to to tap into these volumes and to grow them, right? So the chains are seeing that, startups are seeing that, and that's
Mhm.
what's attracting them here. Also, and and part of that comes now with building the talent that is required
Yeah.
to to identify these opportunities, to take advantage of them. Yeah, so I would say that's the one of the main narratives is that it's really financial. You know, opportunity for financial prosperity is really what moves a lot of people, organizations.
Mm.
Even if you look at it, DeFi is one of the more active components of Web3. It's really
Yeah.
just money,
Yeah.
That's just how it is in economics, yeah, and
Yeah.
finance. Yeah.
That's quite
Yeah.
true. So for a builder who's for a young person, not even a builder per se, because they might have the interest of wanting to build, but they've not actually started. So to anyone who's listening to this conversation and they want to get into the blockchain space as a builder, they've not started, they just have an idea, how would you walk that person through from them thinking they want to be in the space and they don't know how to them getting to a point where they are working with these big organizations, or they've started their own projects and now they're putting it out into the market? How will you walk that person into that journey from self discovery to final product, if I might say that?
So the first thing I'd like to also clarify here, or kind of to discuss is, there's this obsession with builders. Not
Yeah,
everyone can code, okay? And
yeah,
then, and people entering the Web3 space feel like, oh my God, I can't code, you know. Then you're like, oh, is this even the place for me?
yeah,
Web3 is a technology. Technologies are only there to make life better for everyone, right?
yeah,
It's like it's like saying, oh, if you want to, like when the internet started back in the late 80s, whatever, early 90s,
yeah,
it's like saying, oh, if I want to enter this internet thing, and I can't code, you know, like 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 is this thing only for people? The internet has been built by techies, and it's just for techies. It's so basically,
yeah. We need to demystify that.
yeah. So Web3 is just technology. That's it.
Yeah,
That's there to serve everyone, right? Whether you're a builder, whether you're a founder, whether you're someone who just wants products, or to use tools that are maybe safer, faster, you know,
yeah,
more, you know, like that you can trust. So what I would, so my recommendation would be, number one, to just be curious, get as much information as possible,
mm-hmm.
talk to friends about it. I'd say join communities. Communities are just the easiest way to do it. Join Web3 clubs, of course,
Yeah,
and just it's easier to soak to something and have it absorbed than to actively trying to like digest it. It's easier if you're in a group where today there's this link, or tomorrow there's this conversation, tomorrow
Yeah.
there's this space. It's easier to get into that, to immerse yourself. I think that's how I'd look at it. Put yourself in that world, and then
Yeah.
it will it will it, it will become a part of you. We we're still in the early stages of this technology, and that's why we're speaking of it like this. No
Yeah.
one is saying, "Oh, if you want to know Web two, do this, do that." No one is doing that because
Yeah.
the products are there. If you want a solution, you just go to Google Play Store, and you just find, a note taker or a calculator. Like you don't need to know anything about anything.
Yeah.
Like that product has been built out and it's there. You just go and consume. Web three is at the stage where most consumers of Web three products also kind of have to know what Web three is,
Yeah.
and which is fine, but it doesn't have to be like that. Ideally,
Yeah.
the ecosystem will bring out enough products, enough solutions for users to not even care or even have to know what Web3 is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so immerse yourself in it. For builders, of course, you can only build amazing Web3 products if you understand what the technology is, the
That's
philosophy
true.
behind it, right? So
Mm.
for builders, there's more of a calling to truly understand the opportunities that come with this new infrastructure.
Yeah. That's quite true. And I like what you said because like now I'm really thinking back and wondering when Web 2 was when we were evolving from Web 1 to Web 2, did really people sit down and be educated on what it is? But anyway, that's food for thought.
No, no, no,
But
no, no, no. That's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
but I
no,
think
like that's a
because
very good point. Yeah.
yeah, we 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 really need to sit on that and analyze it. But I feel like it's because we are living in a society where there's access to information, unlike before. And right now we question a lot of things. And as we question, there are so many other theories that come into play on about what this thing is, why you shouldn't use it. And I part of me feels like even when the internet and these applications as we know them right now, like most of these social platforms, um, I had this theory. How true that is, I don't know. That when Facebook started, people were using uh, pseudonyms because it was deemed as Illuminati. Why are you putting your information out there? Why are you putting? So don't use your real name, and that's how it started. But look at it right now. This is a whole ecosystem. There are people who are 100% living off social media right now as influencers, as videographer, as like there's a whole ecosystem that is revolving around that. So people had different perception of what these things were, the same perceptions that are here right now, the same way people are deeming crypto as a scam. Yet there are people who profited from it when it started in 2008. There are people
Yeah.
who are still profiting from it, and it will continue evolving to a point where it will be so immersed into our society to a point where, as you've said, we will start using products without even minding or thinking what technology it has been built on. We will get to a point where transacting on crypto is so obvious to a point where we don't even remember how we used to exist without it in the first place. So it's just the fact that we are in the development stage of this new technology, and we are in a era where there's access to information. Even what you're doing right now is giving people access to information, letting them know that this technology is here and it's it's here to stay, and we need to understand what it's all about, which is a really nice thing, because we're not using it from a point of, oh, it's here, let's just use it. We're using it from a point of understanding how it's impacting my life, how it's impacting your life, and why it's important for us to use it instead of not using it, because it's addressing a lot of the pain points that we experience in the economy right now. As you said, when you guys started, you thought of it and it felt like it's an utopia. You're thinking of a world where we have voting systems built on blockchain, where transparency is one of the key factors of it. But when you think of it, when you thought of it a couple of years ago, it sounded so impossible. But right now, it's the reality of life. These are the conversations that have even been had on mainstream media, something that you could have never thought it will happen a couple of years. So, which is really good. And you guys are really doing an amazing job, because, as I started by saying, you have impacted a lot of builders within the ecosystem, and we're seeing people building projects. We're seeing people who have come to Web3 clubs. You've mentored them. They've gotten access to education, because that's what you guys do. You educate people on how to build within the ecosystem, and it's not just building products, it's mentorship across board, because you find some of these people that you'll interact with, they won't end up being just builders, they will end up being more than just builders within the ecosystem, and that is really good. And as we almost wind up, I'll want to ask you, what are some of the gaps that you're seeing in our ecosystem, not only here in Kenya, but across Africa? And how can we be able to fill those gaps?
Uh, gaps. I'd say, especially now that we are on this founder support journey,
Yeah,
I would say we need a lot more. I'd say infusion of capital.
yeah,
So, for example, right now we've got so many projects like coming out of the lab right now,
yeah,
out of the community. So, for example, in Silicon Valley, people raise money on a pitch deck. You know, people just raise money on like having coffee and stuff like that.
yeah,
Here we have MVP products. So I think the founder ecosystem in general needs support. We're seeing
yeah,
this, of course. Base is doing a lot. Lisk is doing a lot. Yeah, so I'd say infusion of capital into both ecosystem support
yeah,
programs and the products themselves, right?
mm,
So let's have more incubators, let's have more programs, and let the founders uh, have have more money to strictly focus on the products. As you
yeah,
know, here in Nairobi and in Africa in general, most builders are probably building a startup. They probably have a side hustle. Guys are probably having three things they're doing. Maybe you're in
yeah,
school, you've got a startup, and maybe you've got some clients that just have maybe you're building websites or mobile apps for them or something,
yeah,
or some other hustle. So these distractions also mean that the builders are not being optimized. The founders are not really locking in as much as they should.
yeah,
And they're able to lock in from 9 to 5, uh, or from 5 to midnight, or how. Yeah.
yeah,
So I would say I think that like resource issue is real. Uh, you know that cannot be under 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 stressed or under emphasized.
Yeah.
I'd say that's one. Gaps, I think we need more collaboration within local communities also. I
Yeah.
think that's getting better. Um, but the key to that also is alignment. Like, it's nice to work together, but are we really, really aligned? Are we really pushing for the same thing?
Mm, mm,
I think we need more mentorship for sure, um, locally even. So mentorship is huge. We have a lot of people in our ecosystem who can really come through. And I think a good number are doing that, but that can always get better. Yeah, I think that's a gap that could be narrowed even further. Um, just one comment I want to make, because we were talking about the whole Web2, Web3 thing. It
yeah.
really got me excited. Like, why is it that in Web3 people are like, oh, you basically almost have to become a programmer just to use Web3, or you have to
Yeah.
get deep into the philosophy of Web3. The reason I think why that's a thing is because
Mm,
Web3 came almost as an answer to a problem. You know,
mm,
it's technology, it's infrastructure, just like the internet,
yeah.
but it only came about almost as a protest to what the internet was or what the internet has been. So
Mm,
it has this cultish vibe. It's almost like, yeah, as we're Web3, as we're here to change the system,
yeah.
if you want to use Bitcoin, it's like the cool kids are pulling up and telling the old folks, oh, you guys, man, you guys are messed up. So I think that's where the culture, I,
Yeah.
I think that's where the culture of like obsessing with the technology and the philosophy comes from.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's it's like a very promising technology, but it's almost like a child, like a teenager who's just pulling up and letting guys know, yeah, this is me. I'm flashy. Look at how like look at my swag. You know, Unlike Web2, which is like old, mature, stable technology that just
Yeah.
does thing. Aina pupa, like it doesn't have too much pressure. It's so hopefully Web3 one day will now graduate and become like a grown-up ecosystem without too much drama and too much stuff. So yeah, that's just something that for me was interesting. I wanted to.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it because it's true. Because when you first get into the Web3 ecosystem, to be honest, you feel like an outsider because
Uh,
there's this group of people, venye tumesema, like cool kids who understand what is, you're hearing
yeah,
jargon being thrown right, left, and center, and you're
yeah,
just there in the middle, like the uncool kid in high school who doesn't understand anything.
yeah,
Who like it usually feels like that. But I've seen a lot of growth and change, and it's because there's now access to a lot of information. And when I'm sure even when you were starting, there wasn't as much access to information as there is right now. Right now, there are podcasts that are talking about what blockchain and crypto is all about every other day. There are people who are analyzing markets. There are people who are talking about different projects within this space. The communities have gotten bigger because every project within the blockchain space is built on a community, and their core purpose is to educate their community. So there's access to information. So anyone who's getting into the space, we want to acknowledge you that you won't feel like you're you're not a cool kid. You won't
you're not
feel
good enough.
left out. Yeah, you won't feel lost.
Yeah,
You will look for information and pick the information that you feel um, that resonates with you, information that you feel that you can be able to access to, like in terms of even you're a curious builder, you have access to Web3 clubs. These are people who are relatable. These are people who are here. These are people who have an office. You can reach out to them. You can go to their workspace. You can interact with them. They have an incubation hub. You can be part of that. So it's no longer being dealt with in isolation. There are people within the space that you can be able to interact with, and then people who are around. It's not an incubation hub that is in Silicon Valley. No, these are people who are here in Nairobi. They're here in Kenya. They're in different parts of. I like that nowadays we are even seeing a lot of incubation hubs in different places in the country. There's one in Kilifi. There are others in Kisumu, making it accessible to everyone. You don't have to be the cool kid to be in the space. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Yeah.
Ochi, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Before we wind up, we have it's a tradition here at Soko Chain that we're trying to keep up with.
Okay.
So I'd like to hear from you if blockchain and crypto was a book here in Africa, what chapter would you say we are at right now?
Chapter. A rite of passage. Rite of passage. Rite of passage. So you know how like African customs, when you reach a certain age,
Yeah.
as a guy or as a lady, there's certain customs that are carried out for you to now
Transition
be
to the
considered
others.
as
Yeah.
an adult. Or so we're at that point where we're just approaching rite of passage, or are just there, and
Yeah.
there's a few things that we need to get together to
Mm-hmm.
now flourish or bloom. So I would say we are at the chapter of rite of passage.
That's a very good way to wind up. And it taps onto who we are as a people, as
Yeah,
Africans. And rite of passage is a core thing here in Africa. We've all gone through different rites of passage, and it's
yeah,
a it's a nice way to visualize where we are at as
yes, yes.
as an ecosystem in terms of adoption of this technology, and what a better way to wind it up.
In,
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ochieng, for gracing us with your presence, for sharing your wonderful insights on what blockchain is, what Web3 Club is, and where we are at as an ecosystem here in Africa. And it's so profound to know that we are at the rite of passage, which that means, and it leaves us thinking, are we at the rite of passage of birth, or are we the rite of passage of adolescence? So yeah, so stick around to figure that out as we continue sharing more of these educational episodes to just make all of us understand and have a perspective of what blockchain technology really is before we start getting used to interacting with this project. As we've said in the conversations, we're gonna get to a point where blockchain technology has been immersed so much into our day-to-day use to a point where you won't even recognize that you're using an application or you're using a system that has been built on blockchain. But that's the goal. So let's keep building, let's keep learning, let's keep it here. So till next time, bye.